constellation's secretive plotter is impressed by his evil scheme and also recommends his scenario on the Starstream. He then opens up the treasure chest and looks at the treasures they have found. Sangha sees a mana recovery bracelet, and Gikyoung sees a rusty iron shield of grade D. They think the pieces of equipment are not as extravagant as they expected, and Dokja thinks it's probably because the protagonist who left for Jongyuk yesterday already took his fill. However, there is still one more to go, and they find another item named Mana Brazier, which is a maximum of 1 per incarnation. He thinks he might know what it does and thinks it is actually a key item of the current scenario. He then cooks ground rat leg on it, and Sangha asks him if he thinks it is okay to eat it. He tastes it and says it is okay to eat, and they also cook rat legs for themselves. Several constellations are smacking their lips, and Dokja thinks reading about it and actually tasting it are two different things. Mr. Han interrupts them and asks him for permission to cook his piece of meat. He also apologizes to him for his behavior, but he asks him not to mind him and dig in. He says he needs to eat to store up the energy to fight his curse, and they all start eating there. After a while, Sangha asks him how he knew about all this, and even knows how to cook a monster that they have never seen before. She says it is probably because he has read a lot of fantasy web novels, and all she can do is stuff her face with the food he risked his life for. He says she could understand the monster from earlier because she has been studying hard to learn foreign languages. Sangha observes he has been staring at the box for some time now, and she asks him if he is going to use that for something later. She tells him there is some writing on the surface, and Dokja wonders if she can even read that language. She reads the words written on the box, and Dokja thanks her for deciphering the words from his memory. The first to discover a random item box was the Flying Fox, and even Yongyuk, who took the other Mana Brazier, wouldn't have known that the real treasure there was this black box. Sangha says he can keep all the items they find there for himself, which is the right thing to do. Dokja thinks there is. A strange box is found in the early scenarios. He places an object into the box along with the Tier 7 demonic species, monster core he got from the Warden of the Dark and Broken Faith. He assumes no one knows it is a limited edition premium item. The Dokja informs him that if he places low-grade items into the box and closes the lid, it spits out a guaranteed high-grade item. Dokja's scream, stating he doesn't know why the box is there. He is notified that the resulting item will be a bladed weapon because he placed a bladed weapon into the box. Soon, random loot is activated, and the item placed in the box becomes related to a specific constellation, dramatically increasing the chance of the resulting item being associated with that constellation. Dokja thinks anything higher than A grade would suffice and is notified that a high-grade item has emerged. The remaining number of uses for the random item box is reduced to 0. He speculates it was a premium item recalled by the Starstream's management center because any item that upgrades lower-grade items to higher-grade items could disrupt the scenario's balance. He retrieves a sword called Unbreakable Faith, a constellation artifact that once belonged to the hero Kaisen, who led Grunted into the Grand Age of Magic. Sangha remarks that it is a fantastic item. Shocked by the artifact's rarity, Dokja notes it is far above an alphabetically graded item. He asks if it's okay for him to keep it, and they encourage him to do so. He is notified that he has obtained an artifact, and the owner of the artifact has become curious about him. He then suggests they head back, mentioning there are plenty of ground rats in their previous location, so they only need to take them on a brazier back. Gillen calls him and says there aren't any insects nearby. They realize all the insects exploded due to the Warden of the Dark. Gikyoung identifies a monster in the area, but utters incomprehensible words. Suddenly, an immense amount of energy is released. Sangha notices something wrong with Gillen, whose nose starts bleeding as he screams loudly. Vibrations from above reveal many high-tier monsters on the surface. Dokja calls Gikyoung to snap out of it, realizing he is channeling a monarch species insect. He urges him to stop using his skill immediately. Gikyoung regains consciousness and ends his connection with the monster. Dokja is shocked that he managed to summon a monarch species insect and forbids him from using the skill until further notice, warning him not to use it again. He states they would get lost if they entered the black tide now and suggests waiting. A tiny insect appears in the area. Sangha offers to help them find their way back using a skill similar to Gikyoung's, involving a thread she tried earlier when the ground rats kidnapped them. Dokja asks about her personal attributes, but she hesitates to reveal them. Understanding her reasoning, Dokja advises her never to disclose her unique attributes. He notes that she likely made an additional pledge when signing her Starstream contract, forbidding her from leaking any information under penalty of death. He speculates about her constellation, suspecting it is training her. He attempts to use his character profile skill to find out, but receives a message saying she doesn't have a registered character profile. The system informs him it is collecting information on the target character, a message he has never seen before. In the meantime, the channel opens again, and an old Dokja appears, stating that the black Dokja messed up the channel. He greets them all and asks them what they did when he was away. After some time, they go back to Heewin and Hang, and he gives them meat so that Heewin recovers some health. Dokja says he noticed that he had accomplished some amazing feats while he was away. He is talking to him through telepathy and says this is Dokja communication, a mode of communication used by the Dokja, and only Dokja can hear what he is saying when he is using this. However, it's a violation of the rules for him to use this skill on an incarnation, such as himself. Dokja asks him if he was recalled because of him, and he replies that the management gave him a warning because he shut off his channel abruptly and left the advertisement running for too long. He exclaims he has made up his mind not to pay attention to minor things like that, and a few trips to the management center aren't a big deal for him. Dokja asks him how he knew about the random item box, and he is also surprised that a remnant of his embarrassing past still exists. He is angry that the item box was there because of him and thinks he shouldn't be so greedy. At that time, Heewin calls him and says he seems to have obtained a lot of new items, and he replies that he has obtained a few. Hang likes the shield and is notified that he has begun to show some loyalty towards him. Heewin asks him if there is anything she can use and asks him about the sword. They ask him if they will share the meat with the others, and he replies that they will sell them for coins. Soon they reach there, and they find people there who are a little agitated. 20 minutes remain until checkout, and they are notified to have the survival fee ready. 100 coins will be withdrawn daily at midnight as a survival fee, and they will die if they have insufficient funds to pay the survival fee. People ask each other to lend them some coins because they don't have enough coins left. They are ready to do anything in return for the coin, and Dokja and others are shocked to see their conditions. A woman asks that she'll do gang for her sister, who took part in the search team and hasn't returned yet. They make fun of her and ask her to go and look for her. They ask her to prove that her sister went to the search party and ask her to volunteer herself and look for her sister. Heewin gets angry to see them, and her attribute is about to blossom. Dokja thinks coins are powers in this world. Chin appears there and says he is glad to see them back. He says he has the most coins among them. He activates his skill insight level 2 to check how many coins he has, and Dokja is the one who has the most coins in Yunho Station. Everyone stares at him and asks him for the coins, and they ask him to give them at least 100 coins. Jin calls him and says he doesn't have enough coins to help all these poor people, but he has a lot of coins and asks him if he will let them die. Dokja is furious at Chin and thinks about 20 people have gathered around him. If he shares his coins with them, he will lose around 2,000 coins, but if he doesn't share his coins with them, he will become a villain. He wonders how many of them actually deserve his help right now. He thinks the theme of the first scenario was original sin, and they can't even take responsibility for their own lives when they took someone else's life to survive in the first scenario. Dokja laughs and says this is turning out to be quite interesting because they have 10 minutes remaining. The constellation's secretive plotter is waiting for him to make a decision, and he wonders what he should do now. He then asks the people if they want his coins, but asks them why he should give them coins. He thinks he will not play along with Chin's games anymore while he laughs and says he knew he would say that. People ask him what he meant by this, and he says he has a lot of coins, so they ask him to share some with them. Chin says he has been like this since the moment he arrived, even selling the food he brought with him for coins, and says many people there could have survived if they hadn't bought that food from him. The people start shouting at him and asking him to return their coins while Sangha and Hong try to calm them. Chin calls him and says he will give him one last chance and asks him to return the coins to those people. He asks what he will do if he refuses, and Chin asks his men to attack them, saying things will get ugly quickly. They encourage each other to kill him and get their coins back. One of them tries to attack him with his sword, but Dokja reacts in time and cuts his arm in just one slash. The man cries in pain and asks others for help, but Dokja calls them pathetic and asks if they really blame him for this situation. He checks the man's character summary and finds out that his name is Manghan and his personal attributes are shared. He observes that his stats are pretty high for ordinary gangsters and tells them that they all know what's happening right now has nothing to do with him. He accuses them of doing this because they are scared of the gangsters. They know exactly what's wrong and that their lives are at stake, but they fear the gangsters because they have more coins and higher stats than they do. Chin calls him and asks what he is trying to say. Dokja asks the people why the gangsters have more coins and higher stats than them. He is notified that the incarnations around him are getting agitated, and a man asks Chin how he got so many coins. Chin replies that he sold many things. Dokja says when he arrived in Yunho a few days ago, there were 87 people, but now there are only 50 at most. A man says it's because the monsters got them while they were on patrol. Dokja calls them idiots and asks them to think about it for once. He asks if they have observed why none of the Chu gang members have died because of the monsters. He also asks them to consider why the gangsters are always stronger when returning. The Constellation, secretive plotter, nods in agreement with his reasoning. Dokja then reminds them that Chin said earlier they would receive coins if they killed someone. He asks how Chin knows they will receive coins when they kill. The Constellation prisoner of the golden headband is pulling his hair in excitement. Chin remembers how they killed so many innocent people to get coins. The people turn toward him and ask how he could do this. Chin tries to tell them it's a lie, but the Dokja announces there are only 7 minutes left in the scenario. All the people now turn toward Chin and demand to know why he did this to them. Dokja says if they have even an ounce of pride left inside them, they need to fight back and take what was stolen from them with their own hands. The constellations of the pure good alignment deem Chin to be evil. Dokja says this is how this world works. The people turn toward the Chu gang and start beating them. A woman gives her child a hammer and tells him to do as she says. Hyung and S are also helping the people, and Dokja uses his sword to attack the gang. Soon the gang is in bad condition and asks Dokja for help, but he puts his sword in a man's mouth and says he already told them this would happen. Hee-won also kills one of them and is notified that her requirement for the evolution of the attribute crouching figure has been met. Her attribute blossoms and evolves into Judge of Evil. Dokja thinks the Judge of Evil is the most powerful of the 3 judges. She asks him to stay back for a moment. He is notified that he has contributed significantly to the blossoming of the attribute crouching figure. She then tells him to stay back because they are all her targets. She activates her personal skill, Time of Judgment, and the constellations of the pure good alignment agree with its use. She begins the Time of Judgment and attacks them, while Chin wonders why they have the upper hand this time. He looks for his people and wonders where they are, but he is shocked to see Hee-won's power. She is brutally killing his men one after another, and everyone is staring at her in shock. Soon she kills everyone. Hee-won reaches Chin, who is staring at the corpses of his men. She glances toward Dokja, and he nods his head. Chin sees him and smiles, about to say something, when Hee-won attacks him and kills him. They have killed all the people of the Chu gang, and the constellations of the channel are experiencing intense ecstasy. Their time has finished, and their survival fees will now be collected. Surprisingly, Hong and Geek Young are just watching Hee-won. She sits on the ground, deep in thought. Dokja gives her a hand and asks her to get up, saying the scenario has only just begun. She gets up, and all of them are notified that 100 coins will be withdrawn daily at midnight as a survival fee. The survival fee will be collected until the second main scenario is cleared. Another notification appears, saying they have entered the second scenario area and have to find and move to the location where the scenario will be activated. After last night's incident, most of the survivors left Junho Station. There are about 5 people left, excluding their group. Hee-won asks if they are sure they won't come with them, but they refuse, saying they will go their separate ways as they have some coins left. Dokja is sure they will survive since they were strong enough to make it through last night. Hee-won then asks the group to move with her. Hee-won Jian, the Judge of Evil, had become their new ally. Mr. Han has disappeared without a trace, and now it's time they left Junho Station behind for their next destination. After some time, Hee-won punches him, gives him 500 coins, and says it's his share, adding that she would feel bad if she kept it all to herself. She had already given everyone else their share. She was the one who earned the most coins last night. Dokja says he wouldn't have done that if he were her. The constellation Demonic Judge of Fire is delighted with their camaraderie, and the constellation Abyssal Black Flame Dragon smiles wickedly because he is the one who gets the most coins. Dokja gave him his share of the coins gifted that morning. Many coins were gifted because of the battle, and he obtained 23,500 coins from the Dokja, hoping he would forget about that because of the earnings. Using the coins, he decides to increase his stats. He spends 1,200 coins on stamina and 1,600 coins on strength, causing his muscles to overflow with power. Additionally, he spends 400 coins on agility, making him feel more agile. In total, he spends 4,400 coins, including some to increase his mana, ensuring he can continue using the White Star weapon aura. With his enhanced stats, he can now focus on increasing his earnings by leveling up Dokja's channel and drawing in more constellations. Their next destination will be the perfect stage for that. With this, they are notified that the second main scenario is activated, and they must get through the tunnel and meet with the survivor of the first shelter zone. They are surprised to read about a shelter zone and wonder where it could be. Hewen says the next central shelter zone is Chungo Station. Many monsters are underground, and they grow tired of fighting them all. She thought it would be a breeze since Chungo was only 3 stations away. Dokja thinks the tunnel is infested with ground rats as expected, and they have been fighting them off the entire way, so everyone is tired. They stay at Dongguk University, and he asks everyone to rest there for a bit. The people who were in a hurry might have left something valuable behind. Hyun-sung calls him and asks if they should rest when they get there, considering they only have one more station to go. He replies that they don't know if they'll be able to rest when they arrive. He thinks about how Yongyuk Station, which they just departed from, is full of ground rats and dead people. Judging by their wounds, it's clear they didn't die fighting against ground rats. It was most likely Yoonghak's doing. They now understand very well that monsters aren't the only threats in this world. Hong says he will search the area to see if there is anything they can use. Dokja thinks, it sure is handy to have someone from the army at a time like this. Sanga and Heewon want to go to the bathroom. Hong and Gikyung also want to go to the bathroom, and after some time, when they come out of it, Heewon asks them about Dokja, since he is not with them. Hong says he wanted to look outside, and they are surprised by this because the air outside is poisonous. On the other side, he is running on the road while being notified that he is currently exposed to the poisonous fog. From the ready he has done, his desired place should be straight ahead from exit 6 of Dongguk University Station. Soon he reaches that place, which is the statue of the great monk, Samon. A constellation wearing a robe is looking forward to his next action. Hong tells the others that he is going on a pilgrimage. He prays in front of the monk, and a constellation is delighted by his action and gives him 100 coins. Dokja is also watching him and wondering what he is trying to do now. Suddenly, he takes out his sword and slashes the monk. Dokja is shocked by his action. The constellation wearing a robe is stunned by what he just did, and Dokja asks him why he did this, but he ignores the question. He has destroyed an idol of a constellation, and this isn't just something that can be brushed off that easily. Dokja thinks all idols are sealed with the power of their respective constellations, and once their seal is broken, he can obtain skills or items that belong to the corresponding constellation. He needs the great monk's skill in order to enter Chunar, and he uses a shortcut that was introduced in TWSA because it takes too long to break the seal through normal means. Dokja shouts at him and asks why he did this, but Dokja doesn't seem to listen to him. He is notified that a constellation wearing a robe is outraged by his atrocious act. He comes back to the others, and Hong asks him about his pilgrimage and if he went to the cathedral. He replies to them that he has something to give them. He gives Heewon a powerful relic that used to belong to a certain great man and is called the robe of the great monk Samyong, which increases a sense of justice and will. He asks her if she has heard of a man called the great monk Samyong, but she doesn't know him. A constellation wearing a robe is shocked by what the incarnation Heewon has said. Sanga replies she knew him when she studied Korean history, while he gives her the praying beads of the great monk, enhancing Mana's recovery. She states that he was a monk from the mid-Joseon dynasty, and he defended Korea during the Japanese invasion and won the battles of Noonpong and Anwandong. The acknowledgement of the character Sanga touches a constellation wearing a robe. Dokja says these items are imbued with the great monk's power, and he offered a prayer at his statue out of curiosity, and these items fell from the sky. He believes that the great monk Samyong has sent down these items to them for the future of their country, Korea. Just like how he protected the country during the Japanese invasion, he may have sent them his relics to do the same now. His speech impresses them, and what he said has moved a constellation wearing a robe. Sanga says that seeing all that's happening around them, she guesses he can be right, and maybe the great monk Salmon could even be a constellation himself. A constellation wearing a robe has revealed his nickname, and the constellation bald leader of the peasants' army forgives his transgression. It is said that their fame directly influences the power and wealth of the constellation, and he acted recklessly, but no constellation would pass up the chance for their name to be praised like this. Heewon likes the great monk Samyong and happily takes all the praises in. Dokja has been gifted 100 coins. He asks others to get ready because they will be in Chungo soon. Thanks to Geek-young's interspecies communication, they haven't come across any ground rats yet. He asks them not to let their guards down, as they have about half a mile until they reach Chungo Station, and it should appear soon. They are all notified that a new sub-scenario has arrived, and Dokja asks everyone to stand back. The precise conditions of the sub-scenario are that they must escape the illusory prison within the given time limit. They wonder what the imaginary prison could be. Suddenly, an illusion is created around them, and they all feel sick. They can't see each other, and Heewon calls out, asking if he is there because something doesn't feel right. He is shocked to see his mother appear and asks if he has seen anything. He understands the situation and activates his personal skill, the fourth wall, becoming immune to the effects of the illusory prison due to his skill. In fact, the illusory prison is a zone that triggers his trauma to drive him insane. He thinks even Junghyuk Yu had a difficult time here, and that this is the most dangerous obstacle a regressor can face. He asks everyone to calm themselves and take deep breaths. The Constellation's secretive plotter is impressed by his mental fortitude, but a curious Constellation is sad that they didn't get to peek into his past. All of them are trapped in their illusionary world of fear, and Dokja thinks it might be too late to save them. Sangha seems conscious, likely because of the praying beads of the great monk Saman, which seem to have protected her. He asks her to cover for him for a bit while he destroys the zone. He had destroyed the great monk's statue to obtain this skill, so they could clear the sub-scenario. He tells Sangha to be prepared and activates his personal skill, Dispel Evil Level 1, which dismantles the illusory prison. He breaks the barrier, but Hong is still trapped in his illusion. He declares that he is a soldier of the Army of the Republic of Korea with a duty to faithfully serve the nation and its citizens. Gil-young is crying loudly, calling for his mother. Dokja calls to them, asking them to get a hold of themselves, but Hee-won approaches him, ready to attack. Her eyes have turned red, and she looks prepared to kill them all. Red eyes are a sign of demon slaying. He gives her the robe of the great monk Salmon, but he guesses it is useless. He attacks her neck, making her unconscious, and asks Sangha to take care of her. They are notified that the condition of the sub-scenario has been fulfilled, and they all receive 300 coins. Dokja warns them not to let their guard down because the fight is not over yet. A Tier 8 ghost species, Spectre, appears in front of them. Hong wakes up shouting Dokja's name loudly. He feels a severe headache and asks what is happening and how long he was out. In the meantime, Dokja picks up a Spectre Spirit Stone, a rare spirit stone that can be obtained from the remains of specters. He tells Hong that they stumbled upon monsters that created an illusory prison and defeated them all, so they should be okay now. Surprisingly, Hong asks if Dokja and Sangha had beaten all the species, but Sangha says it was mostly Dokja. He explains that their attacks were primarily psychic, so it wasn't too bad. Hong thanks him, saying they are out of the woods now. They ask Gil-young to rest, but he gets up, complaining that his head hurts. Dokja remembers he was talking about his mother and thinks he had the most traumatic experience. Gil-young hugs him and starts crying. Sangha shows them the lights and says they have almost made their way. Dokja thinks their group isn't ready for a fight at the moment and wonders if it is okay for them to go ahead. Suddenly, a girl appears and asks who they are and if they don't know that these hunting grounds belong to them. They remember the girl from the video of the first day and recognize that she killed most of her classmates. She is the sole survivor of Tong Girls High School, Ji-hee Lee. She is surprised to see the stone in his hand and asks if they arrived after defeating the specters. Dokja knew her well because she was also one of the main characters of TWSA. Ji-hee asks how to defeat them because only the master knows how after killing her closest friend. Dokja checks her character profile and discovers she has become a scarred sword demon. Her supporting constellation, the god of naval warfare, is no different from the story, and the constellation, bald leader of the peasants' army, is moved by being reunited with an old friend. She is now Naval Commander Jae-hee, so Junghyuk rushed straight to Chungmuro. She is a crucial character in the battle ahead. She then asks them to follow her, and she will take them to the station. They start following her. The scenario again appears in front of them, saying they must get through the tunnel and meet with the survivor of the first shelter zone. They are notified that the encounter has been completed in main scenario number 2, and rewards will be calculated. Everyone is shocked to see that they have pointed their red fire guns toward Gil-young. Dokja asks Sangha to look after Hee-won for him. He also enters the red zone area, and a man asks him if he is the kid's guardian. He asks him to pay 500 coins instead of Gil-young. Dokja thinks it is interesting that he is demanding 500 coins just to set foot on his land. At the same time, Ji-hee goes to Junghyuk, and it is revealed that he is the reason he has let those scum run rampant. It is revealed that the 10 evils appear in different chapters and have other ranks depending on the round Junghyuk is in. They are the main villains in the world of TWSA, and Pugong, also known as the Armament Lord of Chungo, is one of the 10 evils. As expected, his room is larger than the rest of the house, and this entire area must be Pugong's green zone. Dokja asks him why he is collecting coins from people, and if Chungmuro Station is not a public place. He replies that it was a public place 8 days ago, but not anymore. He replies that he will pay the coins, but only to Pildo Gong in person, because this man is not him. He checks his character profile and finds out that his name is Junil Kim, and that these men are landlords who used to own most of Chungo, but now are just Pildo Gong's henchmen, the landlord coalition. He calls Pildo and asks him where he is, while the others are shocked at how he knows about this. He enters the area and urges Pildo to come out and collect his coins. As soon as he enters the area, the red fire guns are directed toward him, and a man from behind asks him to stop right there. He warns him, saying that he will be dead if he takes another step. He exclaims that he hasn't seen him around there before and says he has got quite the nerve. Dokja thinks he must be Pildo Gong, the armament lord, and asks why he should be nervous when he is just there to do what needs to be done. He is notified that Pildo Gong has begun to take an interest in him. He checks his character profile and discovers that he already has 2 personal attributes, and his mana is level 19. This is expected of someone who would become one of the 10 evils. He asks Dokja what business he has with him because it doesn't seem like he is just there to pay him. He wonders if he should make a deal with him or just crush him right then and there. Pildo observes his intention of holding the sword and says he better not have any crazy ideas if he knows what he means. Dokja observes the situation, looks at his companions, and asks what a tenant wants from a landlord. He exclaims that he wants a room and asks him to let him and his friends stay in his green zone. Pildo refuses, saying they don't take tenants who aren't a part of the landlord coalition unless they want to pay them 500 coins each day. Dokja says they can't afford that, but he can pay him in intel. Pildo is shocked when Dokja takes Jungyuk's name. He gets angry about his name and asks if he is talking about the man who caused an uproar a while back. He asks him how he knows about this. Dokja thinks that in the original story, Jungyuk should be in an all-out war against the landlord coalition right now. Pildo asks him how he knows about Jungyuk. Dokja replies that he is his companion, and they have been through life and death on their own, which means he is his close friend. Pildo Gong activates the skill Calculate Profit level 2 and asks Dokja not to underestimate him. He warns that if he tries to con him, he won't get away with it. From his experience, people like Dokja always run off without paying their rent. Dokja turns back, saying it's Pildo's loss. Pildo calls him from behind and asks him to pay him 500 coins. He asks them how much they must pay, and the reply is 1,000 coins, 500 for each. He tries to argue with them, but they are not ready to make any concessions and warn him about the fire gun, which emits a radiation. Dokja instructs Gilyong to run toward the crowd, and an explosion occurs. Dokja is shocked to see Hyunsung saving him from the fire using his shield. Hyunsung says he can't hold it much longer. Dokja observes the situation. Heewon is still passed out, and someone might end up dead if they start fighting now. He realizes there is nothing to gain for them if they continue this fight and asks Mr. Pildo to hold on for a second, saying it's not a wise decision for them to fight right now. He warns him that he will die exactly where he is sitting. In the meantime, Jungyuk and Jihee appear. Jihee tells Jungyuk about Dokja, saying he is the man who claimed to be a friend of his. Dokja thinks that if there's nothing to gain, he should at least make them lose something. Jungyuk recognizes him and is shocked to see him. Dokja is notified that Jungyuk has become agitated, but greets him happily. He activates level 2 of the Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint to read his mind. Jungyuk asks him how he is, and it looks like he has been doing well, although Jungyuk is shocked to see him alive. Dokja remarks that people don't seem to believe they are friends. He thinks Jungyuk may kill people off like insects, but he always keeps his promises. A few constellations are looking forward to Incarnation Jungyuk's reply, and the constellation Demonic Judge of Fire is carefully watching to see if the Incarnation Jungyuk keeps his word. Dokja also asks if his people can use the toilet, while Jungyuk just stares at him. After some time, Jungyuk follows up, saying Dokja is lucky to have such a great companion like him. He adds that it's perfect timing to see him. A few moments earlier, Jungyuk had asked how Dokja managed to survive. Long story short, Jungyuk never acknowledged him as his companion. Instead, he answered silently by pointing his blade at Pildo Gong. Pildo doesn't seem to want any bloodshed, so he lets them go for the time being. Dokja asks Jungyuk if he wants him to die, but Jungyuk replies that he doesn't care that much. Dokja again tries to check his character profile, but it only shows a character summary. He thinks he never saw this when reading the novel, but now wants to open the full version of Jungyuk's profile to understand how extraordinary he is. He wonders if Jungyuk may even be more potent than he was during his third round in the novel, which means Jungyuk is taking more risks. Dokja wonders what Jungyuk is scheming during only his third round. Jungyuk asks if Dokja has something to ask or tell him. Dokja replies that he is just admiring that ugly mug of his. Jungyuk thinks Dokja is as determined as he remembers, but is starting to get on his nerves, so he wonders if he should kill him. After some time, Heewon regains consciousness, and Jungyuk notes that Dokja has made new companions. Jungyuk seems a little disappointed in him and wonders why. He activates his skill Eye of the Sage level 8 and reflects on how he left Hong with Dokja. Jungyuk is disappointed that Hong is weak and thinks Hong would have been stronger if he had accompanied Jungyuk instead. Dokja considers that he is just an ordinary reader who is lucky enough to know the future. Now, Dokja is surprised to see someone in the group, but it is difficult for him to determine who it is because they are standing in a group. He wants to ask, but knows that would reveal he is reading their thoughts. In the meantime, Heewon notices Dokja staring at her and asks what he is looking at. Dokja wonders wonders if Yoongyuk might kill her. Dokja calls Yoongyuk and asks why he left Pildogong alone. Yoongyuk replies that if Dokja is a prophet, he should already know. Dokja says prophets don't know everything. Yoongyuk activates the lay detection skill to check if Dokja is lying. He then comments that Dokja's future vision skill must not be high enough. Yoongyuk adds that he needs Pildogong alive, not his entire gang, but just Pildo for a future scenario. It was more of Yoongyuk's style to keep things simple, and he asked why Dokja was letting them run rampant. Yoongyuk, annoyed, replied that he was a busy man and Dokja would never understand. Dokja stopped him and said this wasn't something he could ignore so easily. He told Yoongyuk that if he didn't do something, the people in Chungo would be killed. Yoongyuk, unmoved, said it didn't concern him at all. Dokja asked if he could punch him just once, and Yoongyuk asked if he had the confidence to do so. He activated the skill Tiger God Aura level 5 and asked Jihai to follow him. After some time, they were notified that 1 hour and 30 minutes remained until the third scenario was activated. Dokja thought it would last precisely 1 week. Yoongyuk was probably planning to get something he wanted during that time. The constellation bald leader of the peasants' army was angered by the suffering of the ordinary people. Dokja thought he couldn't let Yoongyuk have his way. Dokja was thinking he abused Yoongyuk, and the constellations were pleased with his words, gifting him 100 coins. Heewon came to him and asked if he was scared when talking to Yoongyuk. Dokja laughed and said he was more worried about what to do with Pildogong and his gang. He thought he didn't change the subject out of fear, but rather because Pildo was more of a problem right now than Yoongyuk. From what he had heard, Pildo and his gang claimed ownership over public spaces and demanded rent. However, to complete the third scenario, they needed Pildogong's help. Heewon angrily moved, saying she would kill him, but Dokja stopped her, thinking they needed better weapons. Heewon said they could beat Pildo if they joined forces and activated the skill The Time of Judgment. However, the constellations of the Pure Good alignment remained silent at her request. She wondered if something was wrong or if the skill was broken. Dokja thought that The Time of Judgment, a personal skill belonging to the Judge of Evil, was an all-powerful buff skill that was ridiculously overpowered. However, it only worked when the intended target was deemed evil. Heewon wondered why the skill wasn't activating and insisted that Pildogong and his gang were definitely evil. Dokja explained that this was only from their perspective. He said the standards of morality humans abide by may differ from those of the constellations. In most cases, justice was just something agreed upon by the majority. He said there might still be a way to defeat Pildogong, but it wouldn't be easy. They had to lure Pildogong out of his militarized zone. His stigma, militarized zone, was an optimal defense skill, but only worked in specific areas he had designated. His turrets would be useless if he left his area of effect. However, it wouldn't be easy to lure him out, as he had blankets, food, and even a chamber pot, practically staging a city in his zone. Moreover, his place was the largest room in Chungo. They were notified that there was 1 hour remaining until the third scenario was activated. Dokja said they would worry about Pildogong later, but for now they should focus on finding a room. In the meantime, a Dokkabi appeared and announced that the third day of the main scenario would begin. The Dokkabi noticed some new faces and explained the rules. Their attribute windows appeared, showing the third scenario. They had to occupy a green zone in the station and survive the monsters that would emerge each night at midnight. The scenario would last for 7 days. The Dokkabi said the rules were simple. They must occupy a green zone before anyone else. They could also steal someone else's green zone. The Dokkabi urged them to hurry, warning that they would be in deep trouble if they didn't secure a green zone by midnight. People became frenzied and started killing each other to secure a green zone. Sangha was scared by the situation and asked if they really had to fight like that. Dokja reassured her, saying there wouldn't be a need for that. They just needed to find a room that could hold them all. It was said that the green zones varied in size, and some houses only have one person, while others, like the one Pildogong is occupying, can hold up to 70 people. He asked others to split up and find a room, pairing Hyunsung and S together, while suggesting Huyen and Gikyung go together. He believes they might be in big trouble if none of them have found a room 20 minutes before the scenario starts. He tells them to meet back there, and they all leave to search. But he knows they won't find a room because there are no rooms left in Chungo. This leaves them with only one option, but he wonders if they can take innocent lives for the sake of saving themselves. As he sits quietly with only 30 minutes remaining until the third scenario begins, he stares at his mobile. Suddenly, a Dokkabi appears and asks what he is doing there. The constellation Prisoner of the Golden Headband also wonders about his actions. He quickly realizes it won't help to let the Dokkabi or the constellations know he is a TWSA reader. Dokkabi asks him what he's doing, staring at a blank screen and boring the constellations to death. Dokja is surprised they can't see the story, only a blank screen. Dokkabi says he will die if he keeps sitting there like that. Dokja realizes that the constellations and the Dokkabi, who have the highest administrative power, must not be able to see anything on his screen. Meanwhile, a boy from earlier kills a man from the green zone and warns Dokja not to come any closer. Dokja assures him he won't steal kill his spot. Ji-hee appears behind him, commenting on how laid back he seems. Dokja retorts that she seems just as laid back, and she replies that no one dares to come near her room because they know the consequences. Dokja thinks the only ones who could fight against Ji-hee would be the Landlord Coalition or Young-hil. Ji-hee tells him she doesn't want him to die, as she was impressed by how he stood up to the master. Dokja assures her he won't die, explaining that they don't necessarily need to find a room to survive the night. She asks if he is as strong as her master. Jung-hyuk appears and asks Ji-hee to return to her room. She asks Dokja if he plans to fight the monsters, warning that if he tries, he and his team will die. Dokja responds that they will see about that. After she leaves, Yoon and the others appear, reporting they couldn't find a room and that the upstairs residents demanded a high rent. Hosung asks if Dokja found anything, and he replies that he didn't. Dokja then explains they have two options. The first is easier and allows all of them to live, while the second is more arduous and could cost someone their life. Hyun-sung says they should choose the first option if it increases their chances of survival. Sanga asks him to elaborate, and Dokja points to the stairs, explaining that the first option is there. He reveals that 5 people are in the green zone, their stats aren't very high, and just a few of them would be enough to kill them. Everyone is shocked when Dokja says the first option is to kill them and take their place. Gi-kyung volunteers, stating he's not scared and is willing to do it. Huyan says they've already thought of that. Dokja remarks that those in the green zone probably killed others to occupy that room too. He warns that if they continue like this, they won't be able to complete future scenarios. Huyan then calls him and admits to killing someone in Yunho Station, saying she did so out of her volition and doesn't regret it. However, she adds that killing someone doesn't mean she enjoys it and she doesn't want to become a monster. Finally, Hong asks Dokja if he wants to hear the second option. Dokja begins to understand the situation and says they will go with the replies that he wasn't trying to test them. He says to Gil-young that he would have respected his choice, but now that they have all agreed on the second option, it doesn't matter which path he chose. He requests them to follow his instructions and do exactly what he says. If they fail, they all will die. 5 minutes remain until the third scenario begins. Dokja looks toward a direction from where the monsters are likely to spawn. They will rampage through the station and make their way up to the ground floor, but they can't fight them because if they do, they all die. They need to split up for this plan to work, so they make 2 teams. Hong, Sanga, and Heewon tell them they have to trust him 100%. When the monsters spawn, Dokja wants them to run towards them. When they appear, he commands them to run now. They follow his instructions and do the same as he just said to them. They are first surprised that he wants them to run toward the monsters, not toward Donggak University Station. Dokja says they have to run straight for them and start running after they have spawned. He also asks them to search the wall to the left and right before they run into them. Right after the third main scenario is activated, they follow his direction, and Sanga finds the green wall on the left side. She tries to touch the wall while the monsters reach them and is notified that somebody has activated Chungmuro Station's secret area, and the hidden area, the Refuge of the Brave, has been activated. They are saved from the monsters, but Sanga is shocked that Hong is fighting them because they have captured him. It is revealed that there are a few hidden green zones in the third scenario, and this green zone can occupy only 3 persons. Hong, Heewon, and Sanga enter the green zone and are now worried about Dokja and Gil-young. The monsters appear on certain surfaces each round and can only be seen after the scenario has been activated. They never thought that green zones were hidden in walls. However, there were the ones who jumped to the conclusion that green zones were rooms. Now they are surrounded by many monsters. Dokja thinks there are only 2 hidden green zones on line number 3, and the second one should be somewhere up ahead. A boy has occupied a green zone, and Dokja wants to steal that room over there. Dokkabi laughs, says this has turned out interesting, and asks if they should bring on the penalty. The scenario penalty has been applied, and the partial green zones in the area have been deactivated. The monsters attack the people and start killing them all. Dokja thinks Jung-hyuk is a monster since he has survived an onslaught like this even for a day. He wonders if he would do the same if he spent every coin he had on raising his stats. Gil-young tries to call him, but Dokja replies he can't listen to him because he is busy. He asks him to leave him behind. Dokja is shocked at what he said, and Gil-young asks him why he is going to help them. He says he would have done much better if he had been alone. Dokja thinks he doesn't know the answer to that himself, but one thing he can say for sure is that he can't leave them behind. He says to Gil-young that it would be easier for him to do everything alone and keep all the earnings for himself. He lifts him and says he once read a novel that went bad because the protagonist did that. He definitely means to be a protagonist. He will never be a hero or a savior, but he won't let Gil-young die, at least not today. He asks him to hold him tightly, and he checks for his list of bookmark characters. He activates his bookmark number 1 and fights them all bravely. After After a while, he finds a green zone area and runs toward it, thinking they are almost there. He jumps from the ground above the monsters, but is shocked that the area can occupy only one person because Yungyuk is already there. He reaches near him, calls him, and asks him to move aside because he knows that he can survive without that room. Yungyuk refuses, saying he doesn't want to fight anymore. Dokja is shocked at how Yungyuk knows about this area when it's only his third round. And from what he remembers, the first time he used a secret green zone was in his fourth round. He then asks him to take this kid, and Yungyuk asks him to give him the child. He grabs him by the shoulder while he tries to run for Dokja, but Yungyuk doesn't let him do this. Dokja is now alone, fighting the monsters. The constellation, bald leader of the peasant army, closes his eyes. Yungyuk calls him and says he has already told him that he will die, but Dokja smiles at him and says he will not die. While all the monsters occupy him, Gilyung shouts at the others to help him. The main scenario again appears in front of them, in which they must survive the monsters that appear every midnight. Yungyuk is shocked to see that Dokja just swallowed the thing he had in his hand right before he was attacked. He wonders if Dokja knew what it was, and even if he did, he wouldn't be able to use it. Dokja chews the spirit stone, and all the monsters occupy him. After a while, he is notified that illusory prison has been activated. He has now become a ghost species. After some time, Dokja wakes up and wonders where he is. When he finds a woman standing near a dead body, he is notified that the effect of the fourth wall has been diminished temporarily due to the increased immersion. He is shocked at his memory and thinks it must be anything but not this memory. He must resist this. He grabs his head badly and thinks some memories are not meant to be revisited. He had obtained the Spectre Spirit Stone on his way to Chungmuro Station. When consumed, this item turns him into a ghost species temporarily so that he can become invisible to monsters. But as a cost, it amplifies the traumas buried deep within the user's memory. He doesn't want to have to resort to this and thinks his fourth wall is so overpowered, and he has managed to survive thanks to the skill. If anyone else tried this, they would have been driven mad. Now he has to wait for the effects of the fourth wall to return. Suddenly, a girl appears behind him and asks if he is Yungyuk. He wonders if the trauma has been triggered again, but she is a foreigner with blonde hair and is someone he doesn't know. He wonders if she is the one he read about in the novel. She asks him who he is, and he activates his personal skills and tries to check her character profile. However, the character profile has penetrated the mental barrier because she uses level 6 mental barrier skills. He is notified that there is too much information about this character and turns the information into a character summary. He discovers that she can enter people's consciousness free from spatial limitations and is a character of TWSA who can see the future and plans to build a new one through her visions. She is the prophet named Anna Croft. She asks him how he knows about her, and he replies that he is also a prophet. She checks the lie detection skill level S, and it detects that he is lying. Dokja thinks the skill doesn't work on a real prophet. She again asks him who he is. He thinks she must have noticed his presence because the effects of the fourth wall were reduced. If the skill actually does what he thinks it does, he is a little disappointed and wonders what he should do. She asks him if he doesn't really know who she is. Dokja asks her if she received the Ichus, or nucleus he sent her, and if she didn't use the nucleus's magic power to implant the archdemon's eyeball into his eye. She asks him if he is the one who requested broken faith through the auction house. He thinks she was lucky enough to have been gifted an item that is worth 1 million coins. She comes toward him, and he is notified that the effects of the fourth wall skill have slowly begun to return. She is shocked at why she can't see anything. Dokja says they will meet again, but she has to wait for him until then. In the meantime, the effects of the fourth wall have wholly returned, and now he has become immune to the effects of illusory prison due to his skill. He thinks he has his hands full already, then he bumps into Anna Croft, which is not good, and he wonders how much time has passed. He hopes that everyone is okay now, wonders if the third scenario is still on the way, and wonders if ground rats will still surround him. He activates his personal skill, Dispel Evil Level 1. When he comes back, they are shocked and happy to see him back alive. He gets up and asks them about the scenario, and they tell him that the scenario is over and they have made it. He looks toward the many dead bodies there and tells them that they shouldn't be celebrating yet because they only survived for one day. Hong says they haven't slept a wink, and it's 8:30 in the morning. About 30 minutes have passed since the scenario's end. He asks them about Gilyung, and they direct him toward Yungyuk, who is standing with Gilyung. He can't hear their conversation now, and Yungyuk asks Gilyung to accompany him, but he refuses his offer. Yungyuk says if he comes with him, he will become stronger much faster than he does with Dokja, but Gilyung says he is still not going with him. Dokja thinks Gilyung is just an idiot child because he misses a good offer and activates level 2 of the Omniscient Reader's Viewpoint. Dokja wants to say something to Yungyuk, but he has no strength to say anything. Gilyung observes his presence and rushes toward him happily. Yungyuk thinks there is no more time to waste and that he needs to work on tonight's plans. plans. Dokja reads his mind and wonders what plans he is thinking of, but he doesn't have the strength to think more. He gets unconscious and Hong asks Gil-young to let him sleep. The main scenario again appears, and with that, the third day of the scenario is completed. After some time, when Dokja wakes up, he finds a Dokkabi at his side who is annoyed at his sleep. Hee-won is happy to see that he is finally waking up. He again lays down on the ground and Hong tells him that the orderly officer will conduct today's roll call. He is still feeling off and wonders why something feels a little off. He is still in trauma, and the constellation Demonic Judge of Fire is sympathetic towards his trauma. A few constellations also show interest in his past and want to know about his mother. Moreover, the constellation has gifted him 1,800 coins. Dokja thinks those constellations had a peek into his past, and he is notified that he has endured a night in Chungmuro without a green zone. He has become the second player in Chungmuro to have earned the Endless Dawn achievement and has received 1,000 coins for his achievements. He now has 22,650 coins. He is satisfied that he now has enough coins. Hee-won asks him what the plans are for tonight and if they can do what they did yesterday. Dokja says that was a one-time thing, and unfortunately, TWS didn't have any information on where the hidden green zones would spawn on the fourth day. He thinks to put an end to the third scenario and asks the others to go and hunt down the landlords. He wakes Hong, who dozed off momentarily, and asks him if he has rested well. Hong tells him that he has been talking in his sleep, calling himself Private Han Lee. Dokja says it's because of his traumas from his early years in the military. Hong clarifies that he was promoted near the end of his compulsory service. He doubts anyone really enjoys military service as Hong does and thinks there was no mention of Hong's military service in TWSO. Still, he is sure it wasn't easy for him. Dokja says he is relieved that he is on their side, feels reassured to have someone like him at the helm, and feels so much more protected. Hong is happy to hear this appreciation. Dokja then comes to Hee-won and asks her to do what he just did. She asks him why he is praising him, and he replies that it is to help Hong, as he seems rather down as of late, and he may feel better if they cheer him on a little. According to TWSA, Hong's attribute should have blossomed while defending everyone from the Pledo gang in Chungro Station, but in the current situation, it was Hee-won who underwent that transition instead. Dokja thinks that he has to prepare himself since Jung-hyuk seems to be up to something, and he needs to take care of Pildo Gong as well. He needs to have Hong blossom his attribute, thinking it should be something like the "well done" approach. He is notified that Hong Lee is beginning to feel responsible, and Sanga says she also wants Hong to return to his old self. Hee-won asks him if his supporting constellation is the one-eyed fortune teller, but he doesn't know about it. Hee-won is surprised that he doesn't know about Gunji, and Dokja says he has a skill that helps him understand people better. However, he asks them to look after Hong, and they have to take turns cheering him on. They name it Dokja's intermission scenario. Well done. Their first challenger is Hee-won, who goes to cheer Hong up. She appreciates him, saying his attitude is unchanging, and he is like a large pine tree. He tells her that his favorite song in the military was Green Pine Tree. Hee-won rudely says she never asked him about his favorite song, which makes him a little sullen. Dokja is disappointed in her. Their second challenger is Sangha. She says she has never met someone as driven by justice as he is. She is notified that Hong begins to ponder what justice is. He thanks Sangha for the appreciation, and they are happy she did well. The third challenger is Gil-young Lee. He praises Hong's muscles and body, increasing his self-esteem. Dokja thinks he is so simple, but thanks to that, he guesses everything is going as planned. There is a notification that Hong is awaiting the chance for his attribute to blossom. Dokja appreciates Gil-young and asks if he looked into what he asked for. Gil-young replies that she is on the first basement floor and leaves them, saying he will be right back. Dokja is going to meet Ji-hee and thinks he will go talent scouting. He goes to Pildo's green zone, and Pildo's man says he has got some nerves to show his face around there again. They have heard they survived the night without a room, and say Jung-hyuk must have helped him. Dokja observes something and leaves, ignoring them. A man calls him and asks if it isn't hard living as Jung-hyuk's lackey. They offer him to join them, and Pildo says he will think about letting him in, but he has to bring his companion girls along too. Dokja observes the situation and finds out that there are 11 of them altogether. He tells the man that he will think about the offer. He believes there is much less room available and that he might just barely be able to reach the basement's first floor. Suddenly, Ji-hee appears from behind, tries to attack him, and says she is a little disappointed in him. Dokja wonders when she got behind him, as he couldn't sense her at all. He wonders if she used the ghost walk skill to sneak behind him. She asks him if he knows what will happen if he makes a deal with Pildo Gong. She asks him why he didn't kill them all last night, and Dokja asks her to put her sword down because he has come there to talk. She is surprised that he came to see her, but suddenly she disappears behind him and reaches the other side. She then asks him what he wants from her, and Dokja thinks she is faster than he expected. He asks her why she is standing over there, and she replies that her master told her to guard the place and she can't let anyone through, not even him. Dokja wonders if this is what Yoongyok has been up to, and it looks like he will have to hurry things up. Dokja says he wants her help and that he is going to take out Pildo and his goons today. Jihee seems excited to hear this, and his understanding of Jihee has increased. After some time when he returns, Heewon asks if she is willing to help them. Dokja thinks she does have a bit of a temper, but she doesn't seem that cold-blooded. He tells her that there is a way they can only achieve if they help him, and if she doesn't help, then most of the people there will end up dead. He also tells her that he saw a broadcast of her first scenario in the subway, and it was of her killing her classmates. He is sure that wasn't what she wanted, but she angrily asks him what he knows about her. Dokja just says he knows nothing and is just saying what comes to his mind. And if she doesn't help him today, she will regret it for the rest of her life. It's 1900 on the clock, and it's the time for the monsters to appear. He tells Hong that tonight can be even more dangerous than last night. He asks everyone if they are ready, and they will proceed according to the plan. Jihee is still there thinking about what Dokja has told her today, while Pildo Gong is still in his green zone relaxing. The main scenario again appears in front of them, and 5 hours remain until the third scenario is activated. From now on, it's a battle against time, so they must be quick and make their move before the Landlord Coalition finds out. He wants Heewon and Sanga to take Gilyong to platform number 4, and they will go toward a green zone. The people there seem to be scared, seeing them and asking them not to come near them. Heewon apologizes to them and attacks them with her sword. At the same time, Hong calls Dokja and says he doesn't feel so sure about this. The others are counting on him to make this work, but he is worried because he doesn't know if he can do this. Dokja is concerned about what he is saying because he is the center of this operation. He runs away, saying Hong can rely on him. Hong thanks him for saying so, because this is the first time anyone's even depended on him. He says no one ever relied on him, even in the army, and he doesn't think he has read about this in TWSA. Dokja says he wants to hear more about him when this is all over. Hong says he gets a strange feeling when he is talking to him, as if he has known him for a long time. He is notified that Hong is beginning to open up to him, and his understanding of Hong has increased dramatically. They are talking to each other when Pildo's men call them and ask if they have come there to make a deal. They ask where their friends are and have grabbed a girl by her hair, and she is requesting their help. The men tell them not to worry about her because she refused to sell them her room. Hong seems angry to see this and asks them to let the girl go, but they also get angry and ask who he is to order them around like that. It is noted that Hong wants to act out justice out of free will, and his attributes are almost ready to blossom. Dokja thinks he needs to maximize Hong's stat growth with minimum investments there, and he will need the coins for something else later. He spends 1,200 coins on stamina and 1,200 on strength. They both rush toward them to attack and hear a strange voice coming from a side. Dokja moves swiftly and kills one of them in just one attack. The man cries in pain, and Dokja now commands Hong to go and attack them. Pildo's men observe their fighting and inform him about this, but Dokja and Hong run toward them with their full power. They try to stop them, but Hong hits one of them with his shield and makes him fall. He is notified that Hong has activated the Stigma Great Mountain Push Level 1. They have trespassed into private property, and the Stigma Militarized Zone Level 4 of the character Pildo has been activated. The fire gun starts attacking while Hong tries to stop him and throws his shield toward him to protect himself from the fire. He makes a barrier with the shield and saves himself from the fire. There is an explosion there, but they stay unharmed. Dokja is notified that Hong's stamina has reached over level 20 due to the effects of unbreakable faith, and his hardened body protects him like a plate of armor. Pildo gets up and says it doesn't look like Dokja has come there to pay him, and asks him what he wants. Dokja observes that Pildo has upgraded his militarized zone skill and tells him that he has decided to give up on squatting. Pildo asks him if he is after his property. There is a notification that Pildo's mini turrets are being loaded with enhanced magic bullets, and he is about to attack them. And Dokja observes that a long blade has wounded him. The man tells him something about Jihee. Dokja commands Hong, saying it's time for him to act, and asks him to give them hell. Hong's attributes begin to blossom, and Dokja's operation, planned to trigger the blossoming of his attributes, unfolds. This was one of his favorite scenes from TWSA. Seeing it happen before his eyes overwhelms him. It reinforces why Hong was one of the strongest supporting characters in TWSA. A new stigma is unlocked with the blossoming of his attributes. Dokja thinks no one can match Hong's power in TWSA when he uses this skill. Hong activates his stigma, Great Mountain Crush Level 1, and punches the ground with his full might. Everyone is shocked and scared as the floor cracks cracks open. The green zone is destroyed, and Pildo's private property is demolished. Hong calls Dokja and asks if he still wants to hear his story when this is all over. Dokja responds that he also wants to hear his story and get to know him more. Dokja is shocked that a supporting character from a novel he read is interested in learning about him. He says he might end up boring him, but Hong insists he is still curious. Suddenly, they hear a voice from the side, where a man is calling for help. They go toward the place and find Pildo lying on the ground. Dokja says they have to end him first. Smiling, Dokja remarks that he will let Pildo take a trip back to a time when none of them owned any private property. Later, they go to Huyen and S and are shocked to see many dead bodies. Dokja asks Huyen if she destroyed them all, and she replies that she has killed everyone. Dokja is shocked and remarks that he did not realize she could destroy rooms like this. Quinn tells him they bashed the floor, causing it to collapse. Dokja reflects that he had asked Sangha, Huyan, and Gikyung to eliminate the smaller green zones except for the ones belonging to Pildo Gong. Most of the eliminated zones had a maximum capacity of fewer than 3 people. The Dokjaebi is shocked at Dokja's actions and asks what he plans to do next. Dokja responds that all the Dobas in Chungmuro are up in arms because of what he did. He covers his ears and asks the Dokjaebi to pipe down, saying he's had enough of a headache from all the messages from the constellations. At the same time, the constellations are impressed by the chaos he has created and are excited to see what he will do next. They also gift him 300 coins for his actions. The Dokjaebi warns him not to forget that he is not the only Dokjaebi in Chungmuro and that many other Dokjaebis are there. He asks Dokja which channel Pildo belongs to, and Dokja replies that it was Oberyu, the Dokjaebi who took over Pildo's channel. Pildo's audience consists mostly of thrill seekers. Meanwhile, Jihe comes to Dokja and asks if he destroyed them all. Dokja recalls that he had asked Jihe's help for green zones with a capacity of 5 to 8 men, areas where it would have been difficult for Huyen to handle alone. Jihe, being Young Hok's disciple, destroyed the green zones with ease. Currently, everyone is furious with them, and a mob rushes toward them to attack. They surround Dokja and his group. Meanwhile, a bounty hunter scenario begins, and their attribute windows appear before them. The conditions reveal that the constellation of Channel Birth, Ready 642, has placed a hit on the incarnation of Dokja Kim of Chungmuro Station. Jihe leaves, saying she will not help him this time. Dokja responds that he doesn't need her help. Heewon smiles and asks if they'll get 2,000 coins if they kill him now. Dokja asks her if she plans to go through with it. Hong steps forward and tells Dokja to get behind him, and Dokja checks his character profile and asks how many times he can use his kill from before. He replies that he can use it 2 times at most and urges Gilyung to relax, reminding him that they are not the only ones who will be fighting. Dokja recalls reading in TWSA, though he doesn't remember the chapter, that Junghyuk, who had gone mad due to repeated regression, destroyed all the green zones when he arrived in Chungmuro. At this moment, the conditions are identical. Everyone is notified that all the green zones in the station have been destroyed. The central scenario system is overloaded, and the difficulty of the current scenario adjusts according to the remaining scenario duration. It is revealed that the scenario has been renewed. The conditions have changed, and now they must spawn the remaining monsters at once and survive the onslaught for the remaining duration. Monsters rush toward them, and the emergency defense begins. People panic and run to save their lives as the situation worsens. Dokja also starts running and instructs Hong to head for the stairs. They all reach the stairs, and he strikes the ground with his sword. He declares that they won't survive even if they manage to get upstairs. Suddenly, an immense light emits from the ground. Dokja realizes there are no more rooms left in Chungmuro and only one way to survive. He destroys the stairs, ensuring no one can ascend, and the people ask him what he expects them to do. Dokja tells them to fight for their lives. They curse him for destroying their rooms and plan to use another staircase, but Hyun Sung uses his skill and destroys those stairs too. Heewon protests, saying this wasn't what Dokja said would happen, and at this rate, everyone will die. Dokja admits he already knows and activates his personal skill, Bookmark. He starts skill bookmark number 3, which has a 5-minute activation time. He then calls out to Pildo, asking if he plans to stand there like an idiot and whether he actually wants to live. As Pildo stares furiously, people rush toward him, begging him to save them. Dokja remarks that the third scenario isn't that hard to clear, and that if they give up the room, the scenario will spawn a manageable number of monsters. He reflects that if everyone in Chungmuro had banded together to fight, more people could have survived. However, the real trap of this scenario was the green zone itself. The people plead with Pildo to help, promising they can all survive if they fight together. Pildo, though reluctant, eventually asks everyone to gather around him. He calms them, explaining that the militarized zone takes some time to set up, and urges them to hold the monsters back for a little while. The people try to fend off the monsters so Pildo can rebuild the zone. Meanwhile, Dokja calls Sangha and asks her to use her light thread to bring people upstairs. She saves a man who thanks her, but then glares at Dokja angrily. At that moment, they are notified that the bounty hunter hunter scenario has timed out, and the bounty on Dokja's head has been removed. Smiling, Dokja remarks that it's too late now. The boy feels sorry for him. Suddenly, Pildo activates his skill, Private Property Level 3, and a large number of monsters charge at them. He then activates his stigma, Militarized Zone Level 4, and begins attacking. Hong is impressed by his stigma. Dokja observes that while Pildo seems to be using up a lot of mana, his stigma is quite mana efficient, meaning he should manage fine on his own for now. Dokja suggests the others sit back and enjoy the show, casually mentioning that he's thinking of taking a nap. Hong, surprised, asks if it's okay for Dokja to sleep in such a situation. Dokja reassures him, saying they should feel lucky to be with him. However, he adds that Pildo and his gang are not so fortunate today. Soon, Pildo grows tired and shouts loudly that they should die, leveling up his private property skill. He also levels up his militarized zone skill to activate his fire guns and acquires the skill barrier. Dokja and his team watch quietly from a distance as the battle unfolds. It has been an hour since the fight began, and Pildo has leveled up considerably. Dokja thinks this has put Pildo's supporting constellation in a tough spot and wonders how long the constellation will continue sponsoring him like this. Jihe laughs at Pildo's situation, commenting that he seems to have aged already. Dokja remembers that Jihe had asked him to help earlier and is now laughing at their predicament. Meanwhile, Heewon has actually fallen asleep. Dokja asks Jihe about Young Hawk. She says she doesn't know much about him because he is always busy. He asked her when Young Hawk entered the dungeon, and she tells him it was around 9 in the morning. Suddenly, she realizes something and asks how he knows about this. Dokja notes that it is 8 in the evening now, meaning it has been about 11 hours since Young Hawk entered the dungeon. Since Young Hawk has not emerged, Dokja concludes he must act. Dokja calls the Dokkabi and asks if he can open the shop for a moment, but the Dokkabi refuses, explaining that his subscriber count is skyrocketing. Dokja warns the Dokkabi to open the shop or risk losing all his subscribers. Reluctantly, the Dokkabi opens the shop. Dokja spends 5,000 coins to upgrade his membership to gold, becoming a gold member of the Dokkabi shop. He purchases some items, and Sangha, surprised, asks about them. The first item is the support contract, and the second is a medium mana recovery potion. Dokja spends 15,000 coins on his purchases. The Dokkabi asks why he bought the contract and reminds him of their agreement, that Dokja had promised not to sign with a supporting constellation. Ignoring him, Dokja writes something on the contract in the employer's name. The support contract is unique. It turns the employer into an employee. After some time, the third scenario reappears before them, stating they must survive the monsters. An hour and a half have passed since the scenario began, leaving Pildo with 6 hours and 30 minutes to go. Hong and Gilyung return with supplies after a trip to the restroom. Dokja thinks about how most of the constellations on Pildo's channel are thrill seekers, and assumes most of them have either left the channel or stopped gifting coins because the scenario has become too boring to watch. He notes that Pildo's supporting constellation likely has limits on how much it can sponsor and wouldn't want its incarnation to die this way. Dokja sees a notification. Pildo's supporting constellation is asking others for help. He smiles at the message as other constellations snort at the request. Dokja calls Pildo and asks if he's just going to die like this. He offers him a deal, sign a contract with him. Dokja shows Pildo the contract, explaining that while he cannot be a supporting constellation since he is not one, he can still sponsor him. He asks Pildo to answer and promises to give him everything if he signs the contract. The constellation defense master is shocked by the suggestion. The Dokkabi is equally surprised, stating he has never seen anyone offer to sponsor a constellation before. He asks Dokja if he is sure that Pildo's constellation would make a deal with a mere human. Dokja knows that Pildo and his constellation are out of coins and reflects on how the constellation's homeworld had already perished during a previous scenario. The defense master's stories have long been erased from people's memories. In the world of the Star Stream, stories are the accounts of incidents or events and serve as a source of power. Constellations without stories cannot earn coins, and without coins, they cannot support new incarnations. When a constellation fails to spread its stories through its incarnation, it is forgotten and eventually perishes. Dokja notes that, in reality, constellations do not genuinely care about their incarnations. As is the case with Pildo and Now, seeing Pildo dying, Dokja concludes that it means he is out of coins. Sangha is shocked by Pildo's situation and remarks that he will die at this rate. Dokja also thinks Pildo Pildo will die if they don't intervene. He wonders if the defense master really wants to see his incarnation perish before his eyes. Suddenly, Dokja is notified that the Constellation defense master wants to know the terms of the contract. The Dokja is shocked to see that the defense master has begun reviewing the agreement. Dokja smiles at the notification that the defense master is asking for some time to consider the contract. Pildo, confused and alarmed, asks what is happening, while Dokja quietly assumes he's been sold off. After some time, the Constellation defense master adds new clauses to the contract and agrees to it, provided Dokja concurs with the new provisions. The first clause is that the employer must respect the employee's property rights and guarantee Pildo's right to live. The second clause states that the employer must assist Pildo in his betterment. Dokja, already planning to put Pildo under training, finds these clauses acceptable. However, what matters most to him is Clause 3, which grants the employer authority over the employee's property, Pildo Gong, effective from the moment the contract is signed. Dokja agrees to the conditions and is notified that the contract has been finalized. He throws a recovery potion toward Pildo and tells him to stop the monsters. Asking Pildo to take the potion and fight, Sanga supports him by throwing her light thread. Pildo, reluctantly taking the potion, says he will never forgive Dokja for this. As the potion restores his mana, Pildo shouts that he will kill Dokja once this is over. However, Dokja, now holding authority as per the contract, commands him to shut up. Everyone is impressed by Dokja's skill, and Dokja asks Pildo to return to fighting and stop troubling anyone. Dokja contacts Dokja, questioning if this had been his intention all along. Dokja is then notified that the Constellation's secretive plotter is intrigued by his idea. Leaving abruptly, Dokja mentions he must be elsewhere for a while. Jihi asks where he's going, and Dokja replies that someone is off finding a rare item while others are dying. Dokja reflects on Younghyuk, who had succumbed to excruciating pain during his regressions. He recalls that Younghyuk had given up, marking the end of his 8th regression. Shocked, Dokja realizes Younghyuk might soon give up again and refuses to believe it could happen. Heewon appears, noticing Dokja's distraction, and asks what he's looking at. Dokja wonders why Younghyuk didn't play it safe, considering this was only his 3rd regression. When Heewon questions him further, asking who he's talking about or if he's worse than Pildo, Dokja brushes it off, claiming he was just checking his calendar. He tells Heewon and Gilyung to join the others, while leaving Heewon and Sanga to keep an eye on Pildo. Dokja assures them that Pildo will hold off the monsters, making it safer for the others. He also instructs them to throw Pildo a potion every 40 minutes and to watch him closely. Despite this, Dokja remains more worried about Younghyuk than Pildo. Suddenly, Jihi calls him from behind, asking where he's heading. He invites her to join him, explaining that Younghyuk is in danger and they must help him. Dokja reflects that in TWSA, Younghyuk challenged Chungmaro's hidden dungeon 8 times, failing twice and succeeding 6 times. He recalls that Younghyuk died in the dungeon during his 8th and 11th regressions. However, right now, Younghyuk is only in his 3rd regression. Dokja asks Jihi if Younghyuk entered the hidden dungeon at exit number 1 and points out that he has been there for 11 hours. If Dokja's hunch is correct, the regressor is headed for his demise and might die today. After some time, they discover a hidden dungeon beneath Dean's cinema. However, it has already been found, so they cannot obtain the discovery achievement. Instead, a new hidden scenario emerges. A scenario appears before them, stating they must defeat the master of the cinema dungeon, and the reward for the scenario is 4,000 coins. They enter the cinema dungeon, and Jihi asks Dokja if he's sure her master is really in danger. She questions how he knows this and why he's trying to save him. A notification appears stating that the Constellation's secretive plotter is curious about Dokja's motives. Dokja replies, that's what companions are for, and explains that he's trying to save him because he's useful. He thinks it's no wonder Jihi and the Constellations are puzzled to see him rushing to save someone who tries to kill him at every opportunity. Dokja is surprised when the Constellation demonic judge of fire is impressed that he's attempting to guide his fallen friend back to the righteous path. He thinks the Constellation has misread his intentions. He recalls something Younghyuk once said when his regression count reached double digits. Younghyuk had asked what happened to the world he regressed from. Younghyuk didn't know and said he simply picked the world where the most people could be saved. Dokja thinks it sounds noble at first glance, but realizes Younghyuk doesn't care about the worlds he's abandoned.
Hey ladies, drop it down, just wanna see you touch the ground. Don't be shy, girl, go bonanza. Shake your body like a belly dancer.